here, back with another 740 Volvo video for you.
What's up, guys? Just Trips and Lips here. All right, so today's episode, we got a good amount of gravy for you guys. So I'm super excited. Finally, I got my favorite company that makes, aftermarket Volvo parts, IPD, to sponsor one of my videos. So a huge shout out to IPD. I'm rocking one of their shirts right now. I run IPD parts. I've ran them long before they gave me this free camshaft to do a review on. They're one of the best Volvo, parts companies that still makes parts for these cars, keeping them on the road, at least here in North America. They're located in Portland, Oregon, and they make everything from stock parts, factory parts to like OEM plus type stuff. They also have a little bit of aftermarket performance parts that will actually improve the performance of your Volvo. So this episode, guys, is going to be really fun. I got Claudio out. So this car, you guys know, it's been my kind of run around 940 turbo beater. So if you guys are new to the channel, this car is basically an automatic transmission, turbocharged 940. It's got a little bit of weight reduction. I've taken about 200 pounds out of it. It's got a locker mod, so both tires spin. That's pretty much about the gist of it. It's got a boost controller, and that's pretty much it, I guess. Cut off exhaust. There's nothing really more. It's pretty much a stock Volvo. So the title of this video, guys, is the best bang for your buck, upgrade that you can do these cars. So my favorite, there's a couple upgrades that I really like. Obviously the first being the manual boost controller, because it is so cheap and it ups your power, anywhere from like 20 to 40 wheel horsepower. I like removing the catalytic converters in the exhaust. That gives you another maybe 10 horsepower. But now, most of us guys, we buy these cars because they're cheap. I know the reason I got into Volvos in the first place was because they're really cheap, and I saw the kind of, I can get like a $2,000 car and actually perform pretty damn well compared to a lot of new cars. So if you want to be budget friendly for these cars, and you don't want to go too far with it, you want to kind of keep it in the cheap zone, keep it reliable, and just get some, base performance upgrade, and just kind of, overall improve the general drivability of your car. So the first two, like I said, boost controller and exhaust, but past that, what do you do? So thankfully our guys at IPD make an excellent camshaft for us. So I would say a camshaft, past a boost controller and exhaust is a really nice upgrade, because it actually changes the power band of how your motor revs out. It changes, like when you hit boost, it's gonna kind of change peak power as well. A good camshaft should actually increase the peak power of the power band as well. So IPD makes a really dope cam, which I'll show you guys right here. It's called the IPD Turbo Performance Camshaft. So really similar to Volvo's K camshaft, actually in specs. If I remember correctly, it is 12 millimeters of lift, and it also has a 256 degree duration. So the Volvo K cam has pretty much 12 millimeters of lift as well. This is a K cam here. The only thing is the K-Cam has more duration on the intake valve, and for a non-turbo car, that's going to be good, but for a turbo car, we want to get as much squish and compression as we can. So the exhaust valve and the intake valve are actually the same duration. So it's both I'm pretty sure 256 intake and exhaust. So factory duration on the stock cam on one of these cars is about, it's like 220, 230. It's pretty low. It's definitely meant for emissions and to get that really low end torque, just for, Granny Nelma driving her Volvo 740 around on the weekdays. So this cam is going to give us, a nice upgrade in the mid-range to the top end. And I've actually seen this cam give people low-end gains as well. People will tell you that it'll take from the low end, but from what I've seen, this cam will almost increase everywhere from idle and above. So unfortunately, we can't get our car on the dyno, guys. So what I'm going to be doing is, I have a 0 to 60 calculator on my phone, so it's an app I downloaded. I did some runs with it the other night, and it seemed to be pretty accurate. So what I'm gonna do right now, guys, is I'm gonna take the 940 out. We're gonna go to a road. I lowered the tire pressure. I was getting a little bit of wheel spin on this car. I'm going to take it to a road. We're gonna do about 3 or 4 0 to 60 runs on that app. And then we're gonna bring the car back in here. We're gonna install this camshaft, and we're gonna take the car out, and we're gonna do a general drivability feel, kind of my thoughts on how the cam feels. And then we're also gonna do, another bunch of 0 to 60 runs, and we're gonna see if the car is faster, and we're gonna see if, oh, my cat's in the car. Maybe I'll take my cat with me for a little rip too. His name's Volvo, by the way, just so you guys know. Very fitting for me to name my cat Volvo. So I think we'll get to it, guys. So let's go do some baseline runs, 0 to 60 in this car. Then we'll bring it back. I'm gonna show you guys briefly how to install this camshaft. Super easy, so you guys aren't scared of it if you're buying one. Mind you, this camshaft is also a really good like budget performance upgrade. Past a boost controller and exhaust, this camshaft is going to run you about like 300 Canadian, and then for you guys in America, it's only going to be about like 200, maybe a little bit more. So for 300 bucks, you know, you can't really get you know, too much more performance out of one bolt-on part. So I'm really excited to install this, guys, and I think this 940 is going to haul ass. Maybe I'll go run some friends with like base model performance cars from the mid 2000s or the late 2000s. And we'll see if it can hold its own. So let's get into it. All right, guys, so here's the road we're gonna do it on. This app that I'm using should do the trick. It had pretty good reviews, so let's see. So we're gonna bring it to first gear. I'm actually gonna manually shift through the gears in the automatic. I'm gonna brake load it a little bit from the start, and this app should tell us what our 0 to 60 is. So let's give it our first hit. So our first 0 to 60 run looks like a 697. So we did spin a lot through first gear, unfortunately. So that's going to give us a little bit iffy of a result. Unfortunately, I don't really have any better tires I can put on the car. So maybe I'll try to feather it a little more off the hop, see if I can improve that time. So we're going to do 3 runs, and then we'll get the average of the 3 runs, and then we're going to go install our camshaft. Alright guys, so this run I'm not going to brake load it. I'm just going to actually hit the gas and then run it through the gear. So that's a 698. So we actually got the same kind of 0 to 60 on that run too. So as you can see, the tires are actually lighting up a little bit in first. I think we could probably drop it down to mid 6s if we weren't getting so much wheel spin. So I apologize, guys, so it's not going to give us the best representation, because I think when we put that cam in here, it's going to wheel spin even worse. We probably won't get any traction through first, but let's give it one more hit and see if we can kind of clean it up a bit. Alright guys, so one last hit. So we're kind of averaging, you know, a 7-second 0 to 60 isn't too bad, so. That's pretty accurate representation of what this car is going to run. We do need a little more grip in the rear. We keep spinning all the way through first, basically. And it's kind of hard to feather the throttle to get, I don't know, get traction, that kind of thing. But I'm not a very good drag racer, as you guys know. I'm more of a drifter for sure. But that's actually really respectable. A 7-second 0 to 60 out of an old car like this that I'm basically into for under $1,000. It's pretty damn good. So let's go install our camshaft and let's see if we can improve that a little bit. Alright guys, so the first step is going to be getting our motor into top dead center. So what we're going to want to do is that white mark on the cam gear, you're going to want to line up with the mark on the back cover there. So how you do that is you're going to take your 24mm socket, you're going to put it on the crank pulley down there, and you're going to rotate the motor until that lines up there. We're also going to want our harmonic balancer. See how there's that line on the pulley down there? We're going to want that to line up with the 0 on our back cover right here. So once those are lined up, your motor's at top dead center, and we can do the first step. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to crack this nut here. So you can either do that with an impact, or you know, if you want to kind of, you can hold it. The timing belt will hold it in place. So you can take a, I believe it's a 13 mil, it could be a 14. Then you're just going to put a socket on it and kind of tap it. So you're going to loosen this off. So let's do that real quick. Alright guys, so this is actually a 14. My apologies. We're just going to give it a couple smacks that way, and there you go. As you can see, our cam gear bolt is loose. Alright guys, so this is our timing belt tensioner bolt. So what we're gonna do is, that's pretty tight, loosen that off. That's a 15. So just loosen it enough so it's loose. You don't have to take it off completely, because our next step, we're gonna actually have to tighten it. So, alright guys, so our next step, we're going to loosen our timing belt tensioner. So how we do that is, I actually just take a breaker bar, I stick it onto our accessory gear here. What I do is I just pry over, and as you can see, that spring took the tension out. So now with that pried over, we're just going to tighten this back up into place, and then boom, now our timing belt is loose. We're going to be able to take that off of the cam gear now. So just make sure you're still aligned, top dead center, everything looks good. Now this belt's loose, so this thing can actually just slide right off just like that. And we're going to leave this, and we're going to leave the crankshaft in the same place, and then once we put our new camshaft in, we're going to line this thing up with our mark, and the timing belt is going to go on nicely. So let's get to our next step, and that is taking this valve cover off and removing that distributor. Alright guys, so let's pull this distributor out. We only have to slide it out enough so the shaft is out of the camshaft. So how you're going to do that is there's a nut on the back. There's actually two nuts. So I'm just going to loosen that. I'm actually going to take out the, sorry, it's not a nut, it's a bolt, my bad. It is also really hot because I just drove the car, so, you know, oftentimes it's nice to let the car cool down before you work on it. I feel bad for the guys working at like oil change places and stuff. They're constantly working on just scorching hot vehicles, especially in the summertime. So just let me take those two nuts out. We're going to have one right on the back here, and then one down here. Alright guys, so I got my two distributor bolts out. I just took off the spark plug wires so they're kind of out of the way. What we're going to do here is kind of just, you might need to be a little bit mean with it because if the seal's really old, there you go, the distributor just pops out. So what I do guys is oftentimes your distributor is going to have that plastic casing on it. So I actually have to take off the plastic casing. So how I do that is I actually remove the three 8mm bolts holding the cap onto the distributor. I remove the cap and then I remove the distributor. But if you don't have the plastic casing on it, you can actually kind of jimmy it out a certain way if I do this correctly. Alright guys, so I just pulled my distributor out and kind of left it off to the side there. The distributor shaft is now out of the camshaft. So that's all we need to do. Alright guys, let's take this valve cover off. So that's all the 10mm right here. Make sure you have a valve cover gasket handy because you're going to have to replace that once we put that back on. Alrighty, so I got all 10 of my valve cover bolts out. So it should just kind of come off for you. The valve cover gasket may stick on there, it may not. Alrighty guys, so once you got that off, we can you can do this step before or now or whenever. We're going to take our cam gear out. So let's take our bolt, cam bolt. The gear should just kind of wiggle off nicely, just like that. And as you can see here, there's a little dowel pin. There's a dowel pin in the camshaft, so that's how you line it up. There's only one way it can go. Now, if you guys have an aftermarket cam gear from IPD, if you buy the full kit, it will come with an adjustable cam gear. Personally, actually, we've had this car, or a car very much like this, on the dyno with an IPD turbo cam, turbo, so that was Goldie actually back in the day when we tuned that car. And we found that advancing the camshaft, you know, advanced or retarded, actually kind of hurt the performance of the motor. It didn't actually make any more power. And it seemed that the stock cam gear with zero retard or zero advance was actually the best sweet spot. So I just run this cam with the stock cam gear nowadays. And you also got to remember the 940s like this car have a round tooth timing belt, whereas the older 740s had a square tooth, and they're not interchangeable. So definitely look at that if you have a 940 past the year 1992. I believe they came with round tooth belts. So our next step, guys, we're going to remove our cam caps. So let's remove all those. I believe they're a 13 or a 14. And you're going to want to make sure you have these numbered, the cam caps, and you put them in the order that they were like factory. So we don't want to put the number 2 in the number, you know, 3 or whatever. We want to keep them exactly how they are right now, and that's how we're going to install them. So I'm going to pop those off, and then we're going to take our stock camshaft out. Alright, so I got all the nuts off the cam caps. So we're going to take those off one by one. We're going to put them, like I said, in the order bet they came off. Nothing's going back. I had a buddy and he swapped those around one time, and it actually locked the camshaft in place. I don't know if he incorrectly torqued the cam caps on, but he tried to start the motor and the cam was locked in place and actually snapped the timing belt, which is crazy. I've never had that happen, but one of my buddies did. So yeah, let's just make sure we're putting the same cam caps the same way in the same place they were. Alright, so cam caps are off. We can now remove our factory camshaft. So as you can see, the distributor is still slightly in the back there. But that's alright, we can kind of just jimmy it out of there. So we want to make sure we're actually keeping our cam seal. So that's going to be, we want to put that onto the new camshaft. If you guys didn't buy the kit that I believe comes with the cam seal, IPD gives that, but I don't think that if you just buy the camshaft by itself, it comes with the cam seal. So let's pull this cam out, and then I'll show you guys how to install our new IPD performance camshaft. Alright guys, so I just set my new IPD cam into the head there. So I roughly put the dowel pin where it was on the stock cam when you took it out. So now what we're going to do, we're going to need a torque wrench for this. We're going to put our cam caps back on, and we're going to slowly tighten them as we go. We're not going to hammer down one cap and then do the rest. Because this is under valve spring tension, we don't want to just clamp down one and have all the rest of the valves prying up on the cam. So we're going to slowly put our cam caps on. We're going to slowly tighten them as we go until all of them are snug. Then we're going to bust out our torque wrench, and I believe the torque spec for these are 14 foot-pounds. So we're going to do that. We're going to slowly bring them to 14 foot-pounds. Also, when you put this cam in here, pre-lube it, so take some motor oil and go over all the bearing areas and that kind of thing. When you put this cam in, make sure your distributor shaft is going back into the camshaft. And as you guys can see, these cams are slotted, and the reason that is because our 740s and 940s have a cam-driven distributor, right? So they have a slot on it, so that can actually turn to the distributor. You're gonna have to line this slot up, and it is off-center, so there's only one way it can go when you're putting that distributor back in. So let's put our cam caps on, and we'll get those torqued down, and then we can start putting our valve cover back on. We got a gasket, and basically reassembly of what we just did. So let's do it up. Alright guys, so IPD cam is in. I got my cam caps back on. They're torqued to 14 foot-pounds. I just checked the manual, and that's what it said. So next step, we're going to put our valve cover back on. We're also going to make sure our front cam seal is seated properly, so just make sure it's all kind of equal and flush around in the cam there. Then we're also going to do put our distributor back in, line up the slot for the distributor, make sure that's all good. Probably do that after you put the valve cover on. As far as the valve cover gasket, guys, pick up a brand new one. Don't reuse it. I'm not going to reuse this one. Alright, so when we put our new valve cover gasket on, what we're going to be doing is I actually like to take a black silicone and go just a little bit on the corners here, just because this is the part that's going to be going over the camshaft here, and once it's in these really tight corners here, sometimes the factory gasket can't seal perfectly, so I like to put black silicone just in this little area here. So let's do that. Alright guys, so I got my cam cover back on. I just forgot to mention one thing, guys. So when you're installing a new camshaft, you should always check your valve clearance. So just without actually showing you guys, I apologize, I've already kind of skipped that step altogether. I will say this, every IPD turbo camshaft I've installed has not changed the valve lash whatsoever. So I never had to change the valve shims or any of that stuff. But if you want to be careful and check, because some of the older cars, when they have a lot of kilometers, you can actually get quite a bit of valve noise just due to the valve clearance being a little bit much. So usually when the motors are pretty low kilometers and stuff, usually everything's pretty good. But what you're going to be doing is you're going to want to install the cam gear first, and you're not going to want to install the valve cover. What you're going to do is bring the cam lobe until the lobe is actually pointed straight up. Then you're going to check the clearance from the shim with a feeler gauge in between the bottom of the cam lobe. So you want your actual cam lobe sticking straight up in the air, and then you're going to actually check the clearance on the bottom of it. So I don't know what the spec is or what it should be. You guys are going to have to look that up yourself. I apologize. But yeah, usually, like I said, the IPD Turbo Cam has never changed my valve lash. So I'm going to leave it like this, but definitely you should be checking your valve lash with a feeler gauge. And yeah, so it's really simple. Just rotate the motor until your valve that you want to check has the cam lobe straight up in the air, and check it with the feeler gauge. So we're going to put our cam gear back on, and we're going to button this thing up and take it for a rip. So I'm super pumped. All right, so while I was doing this job, guys, the back cover for the timing cover actually broke off. So luckily I had this laying around. This is actually from a Volvo Penta motor. So that's that AQ151 that I have sitting there. Because they have the whole thing on the front of the motor, they don't have a typical like timing cover and cam gear and that kind of thing. So they actually use this as a way to set the cam timing. So I'm gonna use this cool little Penta feature. Alright guys, so double check to make sure your crank pulley is lined up at top dead center. Then check your cam gear to make sure that's lined up top dead center. Then we can slide our timing belt back on. And once you get that all lined up, we're just going to loosen this tensioner. It's going to go back into place, and then we're going to tighten the tensioner back up. Alright, so our cam installation is complete. As you can see, this little Penta thing is a cool little touch to it, actually. I usually don't see these engines without the rear timing cover, but it's basically just camshaft right there. If we see a leak, we'll definitely be able to see where it's coming from. Alright guys, so let's hop in this car and go for a rip, and let's see kind of what I think of the cam, the feel of it. We'll run a couple 0 to 60s. Hopefully we can kind of get traction, but even then, you know, if we get similar wheel speed and wheel spin to the previous test, you know, I think it'll still give us a pretty accurate representation if this cam's giving us more power. All right, guys, so let's start this thing up. So what I like about these IPD cams is they actually idle pretty much like the factory cam does. It doesn't really take away from drivability of the car at all. Usually when I install these cams, all it does is add a little bit of power up to the mid and top end pretty good. So there's no really downfalls to having this camshaft. It's just making this Volvo motor a better motor, essentially. So let's go run it through some gears. Let's see kind of general drivability. Just from accelerating lightly right now, it almost is accelerating easier with less throttle, it kind of feels like. Just kind of, you know, seat of the pants right now. I think it's going to rip pretty good once we let it into boost here. Alright guys, so we got our 0 to 60 calculator. So it's only about an hour later. The temperature outside is basically the same. So boost and stuff should be pretty much the same. It's still dry out. Still same tires, pretty much everything same. The only difference is now we have our IPD Turbo Cam. So, alright guys, let's see if I can feather it a little better so I don't get as much wheel speed. There we go. So I didn't spin all the way through first. We got the 0 to 60 down to 6 seconds. I kind of let off really slightly and then I gained back traction. So we were doing the same kind of thing with the other camshaft, and we couldn't get it really past 690. So let's do 2 more runs just so we can kind of confirm that, you know, the 0 to 60 is faster now. Here, what we'll do, guys, is we'll see if we can get the tires a little warmer and do like a little burnout before. Alright, see if that made them a little warmer and we can get a better launch going. I guess I might burn out. Alright, let's see what we can do, guys. Let's see if we can get this to 6 seconds flat again. Another 695. Not quite what we were wanting. I don't know if I gave it hard enough. Let's do another pull, see what happens. So So it did seem like if I was able to hook though, we basically deleted a second off our 0 to 60 time, so that's pretty damn good. All right, let's give us another go. There we go, guys. So I hooked up pretty good there. We got a 6 seconds flat again. So that was a good run. That was a more accurate kind of, you know, a run that kind of gives us a good idea of what to expect with this camshaft. So. Oh yeah, this car boogies now. The 6 seconds 0 to 60 that's faster than, like, you know, almost every car of the mid 90s and 80s. Even a lot of cars, you know, sports cars of the early 2000s. I know a Skyline GTS bone stock does 0 to 60 in just under 7 seconds. So an R32, so, you know, not a bad little ripper for basically, I'm into this car for $1,000. I think we're gonna have to bring it to the track sometime, guys, and actually see a quarter mile time on this thing. All right, guys, so that is pretty much a wrap up of today's video. So I hope you guys liked it. Yeah, like I said, definitely head over to IPD if you got about $300, $200 American to spend. Get yourself one of these camshafts. It's gonna be, you know, it's gonna increase kind of just an all-around good upgrade for these cars. So a little more power in the mid-range and the top end. Didn't really lose anything in the low end. It still spools really good. I wish I could have got it on a dyno for you guys and actually showed you. But unfortunately, Dan, the guy who owns the dyno that I use, he's really busy right now. So yeah, we're just gonna have to go off of this. We basically deleted a whole second off our 0 to 60, which is awesome. If I had a little better tires, I think that would have been even better, because, you know, with the cam, it was now spinning even worse into in first gear there. But yeah, guys, overall, I'm pretty happy. So we're gonna just, you know, rip on Claudio until it's time to pull the motor out for the wagon. You know, we'll probably film a couple more videos with this car, maybe bring it to another drift event. We got a drift event almost every 2 weeks now, so that's really sick at our local track, Mission Speedway. If you guys want to see a rally video of Claudio, oh my gosh, look at those strut rod bushings. Oh my gosh, look at this, guys. Oh my gosh. All right, this thing needs some strut rod bushings really bad. And actually, IPD sells polyurethane strut rod bushings, and that is a thing I'd recommend on every 7 and 9 Series Volvo, because as you can see, they get really bad. And you know, Claudio actually had a little bit of wheel wobble. He's a little bit strange up front there, and this is exactly why. So change your strut rod bushings. They sell like a mini polyurethane kit for a really fair price at IPD. So get one from those guys, and you won't be having your wheel going back and forth in the wheel well, which is definitely not what you want. It's gonna affect your handling, your steering, and everything. So anyways, guys, I'll leave you there for today. Thanks for watching, and yeah, huge shout out to IPD, so thanks to those guys. Like and subscribe for cold hard Volvo nipples. Peace out.